Welcome to the Life Malcolm Show. First of all, I want to express my deep and profound appreciation to the In Touch News family, DJ CEO and Mrs. DJ CEO, aka Tampa Bay Tammy. Also, want to express my deep and profound appreciation for DJ ANA, who's always behind the boards making this thing do what it do. And certainly want to appreciate you for being here as well. Looking forward to a discussion that includes you. Want to say that the number here is 813 8 no, that's my cell phone. I don't multitask well. The number to call in is 813 444 9588. That's 813 444 9588. And we're going to jump right into it because got a lot of stuff we want to talk about. So, if you got the little post I put up on Facebook, then you know we're covering a few things. And I didn't say like you can watch. I don't know if you're listening or watching as well, but if you want to watch, you can log on to www.intouchnews.com and check us out there, or you can go to Facebook and go to In Touch News. Just search In Touch News, and that page should be a little watch party going on, and you can find us there. And also on YouTube. Yeah, In Touch has a YouTube page. You can check us out there, and you can leave comments and what have you. So go ahead and make that happen. Okay, so we said we're gonna talk about Sharpeville Massacre and the destruction of St. Peter Claver Catholic School and mass shootings. Probably not gonna do it in that order though. I wanna, we're gonna have to kind of go with the flow on this one. Some of you all might have expected a different show this week, as did I. But my man Pete McIntyre couldn't make it this week with his homeboy. Well, we're gonna make that part two happen. That's a promise. Just gotta organize it. But for this show, we want to have a discussion about important things going on in the world and in our community, as well as chop it up a little bit about history, because it all connects. And then, of course, tie it up, hopefully, nicely and neatly with a word from the word. But let's start off with some stuff in the news. Let's start off with that, because I want to close talking about us. So we'll start with the mass shooting idea or news story. It's anytime people lose their lives, or anytime people are murdered, or anytime people are killed, it's a tragedy, assuming that they aren't actively involved or knowingly involved in warfare. It's a tragedy. People who are engaged in warfare knowingly, when they die, it's just part of what it is. Those of us who are African, who are engaged in warfare but don't know it, when we get killed by our enemies, it's tragic for more reasons than one. Probably the major reason being that we ain't fighting back. It's tragic. But this thing in Atlanta, and now most recently in Boulder, Colorado, raises some relevant issues relevant to the African community, African people here in the United States. Let's start with the Atlanta joint. I don't know much about what occurred there other than somebody ran up in there and got to killing people who identify themselves as Asians. They know who they are, they recognize their nation, their nationality. I didn't hear anything about. I don't remember hearing anything about the Asian American community or anything like that when the news broadcast the slaughter of these people over this past weekend. But there's this nation of Asians inside this nation of white people within the borders of what is commonly referred to as the United States, here in this land that belongs to the indigenous people. And they deserve every piece, part, and parcel of it back. But for now, it's called the United States. And inside these borders, you have this nation of Asians who have not lost their sense of self. And the other day, maybe earlier this morning, it might have been yesterday, but very, very recently, I read something that said that over $2 million have been raised on a GoFundMe page for the sons of these these Asian people that were murdered. Over $2 million on a GoFundMe page. I'm gonna tell you why that's significant to talk about here as we chop it up. Africans in this country get killed all the time. A lot of young Africans. Y'all know, I know about that. My son was one of the Africans who bandits murdered when he was very young. You know, just 18 years old. I ain't had no life insurance policy. You know, I ain't had no expectation of a young man dying before me. Certainly not at 18 years old. And so it costs a lot of money to do funeral stuff. I don't, you know, hopefully you don't know that yet. But it costs a lot of money to get the casket, get the graveyard plot, not to mention the funeral home services, the casket not included, not to mention the church, and I mean even things like the obituaries. I mean, this thing can cost money. The cars, the hearses. I mean, all this stuff, the headstone, all these things cost money. It can be really expensive, and I wasn't prepared for that. So I got on Facebook and sent out a few emails, reached out to people, and just let them know about this tragedy I suffered, and asked people to help. And in my case, people helped tremendously. I mean, thousands and thousands of dollars from all over the country and several places around the world poured in. And I am to this day still grateful and probably still owe hundreds of people thank yous. Just so many people who responded in such a tremendous way. However, I know that that's not the case for most Africans in this country whose children are snatched away from them so drastically and tragically, whether it's by bandits without badges, like in the case of Young Life, Lazarus Coleman, or by bandits with badges, like in the case of countless Africans in this country. And it's countless because, as I mentioned on this program before, on the Life Malcolm show before, we don't know how many how many Africans are killed by bandits with badges for several reasons. One, because they don't report all their killings. That's one reason. The other reason why is because they got this thing they call felony murder. And so if the police kill an African in the commission of certain kinds of felonies, then the police don't get charged with the murder. The If there is a co-conspirator, a co-defendant, co-suspect, or whatever they call them, co-offender, if you will, then that person gets charged with the murder, not the police. So that skews the number. And the police lie. They say these crimes or murders are unsolved, and they are unsolved. But that don't mean they don't know who did it. That don't mean the police don't know who did it. So we don't know how many of us are killed by bandits with badges, but that's besides the point right now. The point I want to make is I've seen more often, so often that it's sad. African people have to, in Young Life, no, he was murdered before this GoFundMe thing became popular, but since then, I've seen a lot of people with GoFundMe pages, and I see Africans quite often struggle to raise enough money just to bury their loved one. But worse than that, I see Africans oftentimes condemn, degrade, and belittle people like myself who had to face this financial burden in conjunction with this family tragedy, because we reach out to the community for money. They say all kinds of awful and ugly things because we need help. But these Asian people, they seemed not to have one problem: pulling together their resources to help the people in their nation through this kind of awful tragedy. And that's the kind of thing that Africans need to have, especially within these borders, while we're constantly at war with our colonizers, while our colonizers are constantly killing us. And when I say constantly, I mean every damn day. And so we need the ability to put a GoFundMe page up if something like, well, number one, we need to stop this stuff from happening to us. That's number one. But number two, in the interim, while we're working on stopping it, we need to build the capacity to be able to take care of each other the way these Asian people did for themselves. But that can't happen without a sense of self, without a national identity. Without knowing who you are and whose you are and to whom you belong and all that kind of stuff that I used to hear good church folks say when I attended church on a regular basis. The other thing I would say about that is that we should never be afraid to reach out to each other for help. We have to begin to rely on each other, because when we don't rely on each other, what happens is we oftentimes end up with our lips attached to the most degrading parts of our colonizers' anatomy. And you know what I mean. And this is nothing against these families who are caught up in this stuff. But when their children are shot, or their loved one is shot dead by the police, what happens these days is the state jumps in and does for our people what we should do. They kill an African. They know how much it's going to cost them when they kill an African. But they used to know. Now, I mean, recently, since the Breonna Taylor settlement and the George Floyd settlement, it was a little higher than they'd calculated, I'm sure, because these were record-setting settlements. But even now, with this new standard, with these tens of millions of dollars, there's this expectation now. If you kill an African, then it's gonna cost you millions of dollars. But worse than that is the fact that Africans are now in the mindset that if they're doing poorly, doing bad, all they got to do is let their child stay out late enough at night, hang out somewhere where the police bound to catch them, and lo and behold, before you know it, the police kill them dead, and it's like the family just won the lottery. All because we aren't doing for each other what we should be doing for ourselves. So just wanted to bring that in. We come back, we're going to take a break, but when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about the Colorado thing, and then we're going to jump back into some more some Tampa stuff. So stay tuned. You're listening to the Life Malcolm Show right here on In Touch News, where the truth be the truth. And you heard the disclaimer, so don't be mad at them. Be mad at me and call me up and tell me. 813-444-9588. We'll be right back.
This brutal weather that we experience every year in Florida leaves hundreds of residents needing repairs to their property. If your home has been damaged or needs remodeling, leave it to the professionals. Call Reeves Building, Plumbing, and Roofing at 813-238-6197. That's 813-238-6197. Reeves Building, Plumbing, and Roofing have been serving the community for 43 years. Reeves Building, Plumbing, and Roofing is a proud sponsor of Jazz at Miss Connie's house.
We're playing your favorite old school. Today's R&B. With a smooth touch of jazz. You're listening to In Touch Radio.
All right. Welcome back to the Life Malcolm Show right here on In Touch News. I ain't gonna lie, y'all probably, we keep it real with you, man. This 100 right here. I'm not gonna lie, I'm talking more slowly than I normally talk. Not because something wrong with me. It's working really hard not to say so much. I want to have this radio professional thing going one day. And so I have to, I cuss a lot. I ain't gonna lie, especially when I'm talking about these colonizers. It just doesn't even feel right talking about them without using certain words in the English lexicon. Feels like I'm doing all of us a disservice by not saying the best descriptive things about them that I can say. So I have formed over the course of time the habit of saying to run through my Rolodex of words to offset the cussing. As if I don't even call it, it's just word, but you know what I mean. So it's not wrong with me. I'm just working at it. So I'm sure I'll get more fluid with it as time goes on. So I appreciate your understanding. We working at this thing together. But okay, so that was my take on the Atlanta thing. We need to be able to, as much as speaking of practice, we ought to be damn good at raising money for each other by now. As much as we get killed by the colonizer and bandits without badges, we ought to be pretty damn good at raising money for us and taking care of ourselves, taking care of our own. So families who are faced with this tragedy ain't forced to come out and make these pitiful ass statements about we don't want no violence and all the police ain't bad, and then have some chicken eating preacher with them, telling you that the thing to do is to just pray about it. Whatever we have to be able to build a better capacity than that. The type of capacity where we can put a GoFundMe page up and raise $1 million or $2 for ourselves. Okay, enough of that. Boulder, Colorado. Now I think this the joint where I heard that the shooter killed like 10 people, including a cop, and was able to walk into a jail cell. Didn't get shot, didn't get beaten, from what I understand. Nothing. Got to go into a jail cell and will have his day in court. And that ought to send a resounding message to us here in these United States who are African. That there's a duality, a dual system. And the reason why the system is always beating us about the head and shoulders, if you will, is because although there's this dual reality that exists, we live as if it does not. I'll tell you what I mean by way of example. Many of you know that I work with a law firm now, a Celia law firm. And we see a lot of cases where Africans are jammed up. Most of our clients are Africans. Africans jammed up by the police. Before I started working with the law firm, ever considered going to law school, I had my share of interactions with the popos too. And I learned then that the police lie. They will lie on you, shawty. I'm trying to tell you. I done had them put a gun in my pocket, not literally, but on paper. The gun was in the console of the truck. They lied and said the gun was in my pocket. Now it's my word against their word. I'm faced with a carrying a concealed weapons charge. Just recently, the most recent case I took the trial. The white lady with the unfortunate face who works for the Hillsborough County dog catcher people is going to lie on me and say I did something awful to my dog. And then the police she summoned, about 15 of them, a bunch of them got together and told this lie about I did battery on a cop and resisted arrest without violence and something else they said I did. You know, all lies, right? So I know they lie. But being at the firm, I get to see like the records. Like I get to see the records of the lies. It's like kind of like just my word against their word. It has been my experience. But now let me tell you about this one case we have, and I can tell you this part because it's public record. This brother, I ain't gonna call his name though, but this brother over in Clearwater, he got jammed up with felon in possession of a weapon. So here are the facts of that case. The police claim that they, in the middle of August, at around 2 a.m., when it's probably about 85 degrees in Clearwater, they riding around with their windows down. When the last time you seen the police riding with their windows down? But it's their story. They're riding with their windows down, and they happen to smell marijuana in the atmosphere. They just marijuana in the air. And so they see this, at the same time they smelling marijuana in the air, they happen to look down the street and they see our client in the middle of the street with a cloud of smoke over his head. So they knew he must have been the source, or they used the police, but they had reasonable suspicion that he was the source of the marijuana that they smelled in the atmosphere. Not anybody in any of the houses or any of the backyards or any of the houses around this brother, but they figured it was him. However, they didn't just back up and go down the street to where he was. They circled the block and came up some kind of other way. And so anyway, now they're behind him about 10 feet or so. They get out the car, and when they get out the car, the brother throws down whatever he was smoking and starts running in an all-out sprint. The police jump out their car and they say stop, police, and the brother keeps running, but they're able to run and catch up with them right before he gets into his the door of his home. And at that time, they find a gun on him, et cetera, et cetera. So that's their story. The brother's in federal. He's in federal court, facing federal charges for this thing. But the truth comes out in what's called a motion to suppress, where if the cops or some government actor violates your Fourth Amendment rights, your right to be free from search and seizure without warrant and without a warrant and probable cause, that you can get that evidence suppressed through what's called a motion to suppress, and it should go away. And so what comes out in testimony is that I didn't say this. And so in Florida, there's this law. It's a sidewalk law. Florida says that where a sidewalk is provided, no person can walk on the paved road that's for vehicles. So so at first they say it was the marijuana. Then they say, he was in the middle of the street. So that's why that gave us reasonable suspicion, because he was breaking the sidewalk law. Now, the facts come out. There is no sidewalk on the side of the street where the brother's house is. There is a sidewalk on the other side of the street, but no sidewalk where the brother is. The brother is actually just 2 steps off the curb where his house is. So he's basically in his front yard, taking himself a smoke of Newport, Newport Smooth, after he just put his 1-year-old baby down. And the police, what they do is they see an African in the street at 2. And the brother, he got some music playing. So he doing his little thing. He says he was in the street bopping, smoking, doing his thing. And so the police see the brother in the street. They roll up on him and in some surreptitious manner sneak up behind him and then run up on him. The brother done running out with the brother done break out no sprint, because they brought the audio in to the motion to suppress system. You don't hear the police out of breath. You don't hear the police saying Negro running. You don't hear the police say stop, police. None of that. And can't find no weed on the brother. None of this stuff. And the judge in the motion to suppress hearing told him straight up, I don't believe nothing y'all said. She actually kicked the testimony out, struck the testimony from the record, because that's how bad the cops lied. But let me tell you though, let me tell you why they lied. One of the things they said in the record was that the CAD report, the little report that keeps record of the call, the police call, they say, well, at first it was a call for a suspicious person, and then it changed to a call out for a weapons possession. So the judge says, well, I see the weapons possession thing, but I don't see where it says suspicious person. And he said, it's right there. And the judge looking at it, he said, where? He says, right there. You see where it says black male standing outside at night? Right there. And the judge said, where? I don't see the word suspicious person. He said, right there where it says black male standing outside. Yeah, that's what he said in open court. Black male, suspicious person to this Clearwater cop, and perhaps the whole department he represents, equals black male outside minding his business at nighttime. And that's a good way to lead into the break. But before listen, police lie. I'm gonna tell you. So after this, we're gonna jump into the Sharpeville Massacre and St. Peter Claver. But I just want to say this, talking about police lie. I don't give a damn what you say about this police, this war guy who was killed by what they call him, the wrong way driver. Now, the story that the police give is that this guy is some kind of hero, superhero, I guess. He sees a car that the people, I don't know who came up with the figure, but some people say it looked as if it was going 100 miles an hour. And the police want us to believe that this guy who has a wife and children at home, now I don't know what his home situation was like, so maybe it's true, I don't know. But they want us to believe that he took his vehicle and purposely veered into the path of a missile because he was such a noble and heroic fella. I mean, all I can tell you is the police lie. Be careful what you believe. And if I was you, I wouldn't believe nothing they say. Look here, 813-444-9588. You can go ahead and call me, holler at me. After this, we're talking about St. Peter Claver, the Sharpeville Massacre, and we're going to deal with a word from the word. We probably won't even take a break, but we will take calls. 813-444-9588. All right, see y'all in a bit.
We're playing your favorite old school. Today's R&B. With a smooth touch of jazz. You're listening to In Touch Radio.
Who doesn't love being number one? When your team's dominating the standings, or your favorite band rocks the charts at number one, it feels good, right? Kind of like how it feels when you have auto insurance with State Farm. Because making you feel like number one is an honor your local State Farm agent takes seriously. Through the good times and not so good, your State Farm agent's proud to be here to help life go right.
Call Herman White at 961-6661. That's 961-6661.
Your State Farm agent's proud to be here to help life go right.
Call Herman White at 961-6661. That's 961-6661.
Your State Farm agent's proud to be here. Your State Farm agent's proud to be here. Your State Farm agent's proud to be here.
All right. So, let's talk real quick about St. Peter Claver. Today, some of y'all might have saw something in the news about people moving in. I don't know who the people are. I know it's white people. I don't know if it's the church, the diocese, something they call it like that. When you're Catholic, I don't know if it's that group. I don't know exactly who the group of white people are, but it's some paternalistic white people, colonizing white people, who decided that Sister Maria Babatunde should no longer be principal at St. Peter Claver. Sister Maria has been principal there, I believe, for 12 years. The only African nun, female African nun, African woman nun. I guess nun and woman is redundant, right? Maybe. These days, I don't know. But the only African nun who is principal of a Catholic school that's set up like that, K through 8. And families loved her. A lot of parents right now in distress, trying to figure out what to do because these white people just came in and took over our lives. I say our lives because my daughters go to that school. A couple of things about that I want to say. Over in St. Peter Claver has been there since the 1800s. It has some historical value to the African community. Whether you know it or not, whether you believe it or not, whether you feel like it or not, it does. And those of us who still live in the inner city, for those of us who want that type of training for our children, for whatever reason, that's the go-to place for us. I ain't rich, and most of the parents who send their children there ain't rich either. And so that's been a place where parents over, for, like I said, for hundreds of years have been able to send, nearly hundreds of years, certainly over 100 years, but almost 200. I think it was like 1835, 1865. I don't remember exactly, but it's been there. You know how it got there? The white Cubans didn't want African Cubans going to school with the white children. And so it was a lot of Cubans, and Tampa history, a lot of Cubans here. And so the white Cubans didn't want the African Cubans going to school with the white Cuban children. So St. Peter Claver, they built St. Peter Claver for that reason, or at least out of that kind of circumstance. And so St. Peter Claver, the white people came, burned it down. They built it back up, in the 1800s. So St. Peter Claver has some historic value, and as well as present value. But the most significant thing about this recent move in our community is it shows just how little power we have over our own lives, over how our children are educated, who educates our children, etc. And so it's just a damn shame. What's even more of a shame, though, this brother, call him brother loosely, it's just to mean this black, this Negro, on Facebook, don't have the nerve to talk about how decrepit the school is, and how the school is in the some kind of stuff he said, self-deprecating terms he used to characterize the neighborhood where his mammy probably grew up, and where certainly a lot of us grew up and raised our children. And just just this whole, again, this idea of knowing who you are, whose you are, this Uncle Tom type Negro had the nerve. I don't know if he maybe has moved up to the suburbs or something, and if that's what you call it, and now has the ability to, be around white people a lot, and so now he thinks he's better somehow than us, and our neighborhood is somehow worse. Listen, if our neighborhood is worse, it's because Negroes like him leave the hood. Well, maybe not. No, maybe Negroes like him need to leave, but it's because so many Negroes in the past left the hood instead of staying in the hood and making the hood better. So that's why I have a lot of love for brothers and sisters who stay in the hood and do what they can to be examples for young sisters and brothers who are living in the hood and doing the best we can to make that a better place instead of running, chasing the skirts. Oh, I'm getting onto my arms. Let me get chasing the skirts of white people. Okay, so that's St. Peter Claver. We about to read a little bit, y'all. I know. Y'all don't like the reading part, but we got to read. Y'all don't know about the Sharpeville Massacre, but I'm gonna do my best to read as quickly as possible. Tell you what, so we gonna read for maybe, I ain't gonna tell you how long, but it won't be very, very long. But let's go. I found this article that pretty much sums up what we need to say. Past laws. So the Sharpeville Massacre, the anniversary or the commemorating date is March 21st. March 21st, 1960. Police in South Africa, Sharpeville, what's called South Africa, is actually occupied Azania in South Africa, what they call South Africa now. So you had white people who made black people, Africans, carry passes that had to, I'll read it for you. So that's the situation. Past laws, I want to say it because it starts off talking about past laws. Past laws in South Africa were met with fierce resistance during the 20th century, but earlier forms of passes had in fact been used in various instances since the 18th century, when slaves in the Cape were forced to carry permission documents. The issuing of passes was one of the cornerstones of the colonial and later racial capitalism in South Africa. Passes were used to control the movement of African, colored, and Indian people, ensuring the provision of a cheap labor source and enforcing the segregation of South Africans' long racial lines. Pass laws have been resisted in several significant instances. Examples of these include the first passive resistance campaign initiated by the Indian community in Transvaal, led by Mohandas Gandhi in 1906. This campaign was over, amongst other things, the carrying of passes. In 1913, the first mass action by African and colored women was initiated in the Free State. In 1918, the workers' strike around the issues of passes took place, and pass burning campaigns were organized in the 1930s by the Communist Party of South Africa and various trade unions. The pass and the resistance against the carrying of the pass became an issue around which the liberation movements mounted their active campaigns. More proactive opposition to discrimination became necessary after the National Party came to power in 1948, and racial segregation and discrimination was intensified through the implementation of the policy of apartheid, or separate development. Y'all know about separate development. We got that going on here. You see, right around St. Peter Claver, if you drive, if you make that turn on, what's that, Keys? I believe that's Keys. You come off Nebraska and you head west on Keys. Then no, don't do that. No, what you do is you come down Central, just like you're going straight into, straight towards St. Peter Claver, right where the skate park is on the west, on your right side. You'll see as you come under the interstate, tents. Tampa has new housing developments all along Central Avenue in the form of tents. Some people live upstairs, right up under the bridge at the top of the little hill, and then you have others live downstairs on the sidewalk in tents. You can see them whether it's raining, whether it's freezing cold, living outside in tents. That's one development, but then there's a separate development just up the street in the form of the Pearl, in the form of Armature Works, and the rest of it, just two different Tampas, two separate developments. And so pass laws, right? Planning the 1960 anti-pass campaigns, the ANC and the PAC at an annual conference of the African National Congress of Azania, held in Durban on the 16th of December 1959, the President General of the ANC announced that 1960 was going to be the year of the pass. They're going to attack the pass. But a week after the ANC's 1959 annual conference, a breakaway group from the ANC formed the Pan-Africanist Congress of Azania. Now, the PAC was led by young people. You know, you had these old people. Can we just go straight through? We had these old people in the ANC who believed only in resisting, hitting hard targets, kind of like how we do here in this country when the colonizer kills one of us and we hear about it. We'll hit hard targets, like, you know, we'll buildings. You know, we'll do something to buildings, and white people complain about that. But the PAC, Pan-Africanist Congress of Azania, one of the leaders, who was Robert Mangaliso Sobukwe, they said that that's not enough, because they don't get the message with us just hitting these hard targets. So they say soft targets are fair game too. Soft targets meaning flesh and blood, fair game too. And so the ANC couldn't really get down with that. So this young fringe of the ANC broke off and formed the PAC. And so the PAC was able to inspire African people with this new, less passive, if you will, approach to resistance around pass laws, to organize and get out to Sharpeville in protest of this kind of oppression. And the colonizers heard about it, the police heard about it, and there was some like 4,000 people there, something like that, and the police opened fire on them, mowed them down, killed something like 80 people, wounded another 150 or so. African people, just killed them, right? Because they were fighting against pass laws. At least they were fighting. Here, we don't fight against the pass laws. Here, and when I say here, I'm talking about in the United States of America. They don't call them pass laws. They call it, in Tampa, they call it biking while black. You got to be on. So in the pass laws, right, you had to show some kind of paperwork that which was the pass. The paperwork was the pass. You had to show the pass that you were permitted to be in this urban area for longer than 12 hours. So you had to check in and then, check out. So they could stop you at any time and say, let me see your pass. And you could not be in that area for longer than 12 hours unless you could prove stuff like some white person said it was okay, or you were born there and your parents were born there, or you worked there, all this kind of stuff. And that's how it goes right here in the U.S. They stop you and frisk you. They call it stop and frisk. They stop you and frisk you. Let me see your pass. You riding on your bicycle, they stop you. Well, let me see your pass. And if you don't have your pass, you get jammed up. And that one of the things that shows is how we are one people, no matter if we recognize it or not, because the same stuff happens to us. And the same stuff that let me say it differently, because it don't just happen to us. That's a passive way to say it. People do stuff to us. People do the same stuff to us, whether we're talking in Africa on the motherland, or if we're talking Tampa, Florida, New York, Atlanta, Georgia, what have you, because they're clear about what nation they represent, what people what. There's only two types of people in the world: oppressed people and oppressive, and people who belong to the oppressor nation. And the oppressor nation has been really good at consolidating themselves and their identity. And they know who they are all around the world, and more importantly, they know who we are wherever we are around the world. It's just that many of us don't get the picture, but it's clear. If you just look at history. That's why it's dangerous when you hear your police chief tell lies. I'm talking about your Tampa police chief. Tell lies. I saw this story today. I think that's all we're going to say about the Sharpeville joint. I just needed to say that. Did you throw the yeah, okay. I just need to say that right here. I tell you what, past laws. I don't know. Did I tell you about the camera? Did I talk about the camera in Robles Park? That when you walk through Robles Park, the camera would talk to you. Did I talk about it on the show? Yeah. So in Robles Park, I know I mentioned that the police, the housing, the state, some form of the state came to the Robles Park community. One of the last housing projects left since now Tampa Heights done sold out, been sold off. So the Robles Park, the cameras, they spend like $3,500 a month or something. I can't remember the figure now. I said it before on here. You can look it up. But they have cameras stationed throughout Robles Park. I was aware of that. But I recently I changed my walking route. I do try to get my little walk on. And so now my current route takes me right down Central, going to what I told y'all about was the police car that stays right there, like the big ass ship on the water did off the coast of Africa to let us know that the colonizers still there. I told y'all about that, but now they got the cameras. But what I did not know is that when you walk down the street, if it's dark, I don't even got to be dark. If it's dusk, sun just going down, you get close to the camera, the damn camera say, you are trespassing. I mean, the light come on, like, and it say, you are trespassing. I mean, you on the sidewalk, mind you. You're not inside the housing project complex. You on the sidewalk. And in this country, according to these laws of the country, you're supposed to have the rights to all the ingresses and egresses, meaning roadways, boulevards, avenues, streets, what have you, and sidewalks. And so this thing tells me I'm trespassing, then accuse me of a crime. Because I'm just walking down the street in my own community, not even a half a mile away from my house. Pass laws, y'all. That's what they're doing. So when you see your police chief come out about this Devin White, who they fired for saying some form of nigger that we don't say on this show, when the police chief, Hacksaw Brian Duggan, comes out and says that he don't see color, he got to be colorblind, and he got to fire, if he gonna fire the white person for saying nigger, he got to fire the Africans for saying nigger. That's dangerous for two reasons. One, because it's a lie. It is a flat out lie. He saw color when he married his white wife. uh, anyway, so it's a lie. I told you, police lie. It's a dangerous lie because it this idea of colorblind gives this connotation or this implication of neutrality, of some lack of bias, like the laws apply equally. Come on, sisters and brothers, comrades, we know better than that. We can just look at the history. Just look at the history of Tampa, Florida itself. How many white people you heard of being shot dead, unarmed white people being shot dead by the Tampa Police Department? How many unarmed white people you heard being shot in the back by the Tampa Police Department? How many white children have you heard about shot to death by the Tampa Police Department? I'll wait. 813-444-9588. Call in and tell me. I can list and name, I won't spend time doing it right now, but I can list and name 3 or 4 people at least that fit in each of those categories. How many old white people you know of been choked to death by the Tampa Police Department? The only time they don't see color is when it comes to, apparently, when it comes to whether somebody says Negro or not. We got a phone call. Maybe somebody's calling in to correct your boy. All right, caller, come in. You on the Life Malcolm show. Talk to me. Tell me your name and talk to me.
Hello, my name is Elizabeth Austin. You were speaking on the cameras in Robles Park. I wanted you to explain that more. What is the purpose of the cameras being in the park? And when it says you are trespassing, that means people cannot have access to the park anymore? Not the park. Robles Park is a housing complex. Like, it's the projects. Robles Park is the projects, and that's the name of the projects. Robles Park. So it's not a park. It's Robles Park is the name of the projects, and they have cameras. It used to be 6, but Africans tore up one of them. I don't know if they replaced it, but it used to be like 6 cameras monitored and managed by some, but I believe it's an out-of-state outfit, but under the custody and control of the Tampa Police Department, and I believe at the behest of the Tampa Housing Authority. And so they have these big cameras. It's huge machines. They tall like trees. So the base is about yay wide, and the thing is as tall as trees. And it's very close to the sidewalk. And so if you're walking along the sidewalk, the camera will. I forgot the one part. The lights will come on. It will announce loudly that you are trespassing and you have been photographed. It will tell you that, yes, you have, you have been recorded. That's what they say. You have been recorded. And every time they say that, I do this. Just to let them know that I don't care. But I hope that cleared it up. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Yeah, you're welcome. So, so we got to be careful about this tomfoolery, this color blindness, because I told you, the police lie. And Hacksaw Brian Duggan gonna tell us that he don't see color. Very, very, very dangerous for African people, because we know he does. He don't have no problem seeing color. They aim is laser sharp, on whose ass is to kick, who to beat up and brutalize, who to shoot down. But according to him, when it comes time to firing, they equal on the firing if you say that word. Go ahead, caller, come in. You on the Life Malcolm show. Tell me your name and what you talk about. I can't hear you, caller. Can you? Yeah, that's a little better.
I'm not on the air. I'm not.
Yeah, you on the air. So go ahead, caller. Come on. What you talking about?
Answering your question, you're talking about like with any white people being shot in Tampa. And I've never heard of it. Never.
Never heard of it. Never heard of it. Never heard of it. I thought you were gonna call in and tell me you did. I was gonna say you belong on Jeopardy. Yeah, but nah, you're right, man. Like I said, go ahead, caller, you got it.
Because all I hear is, and this is the whole platform. I've been understanding for years. Everything that goes on, they try to run it off the back of melanated carbon 666 people.
Right on.
Everything that goes on. So I was saying this, we got that Greenwood, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Big John Horse type attitude. We got to get ourselves together because this is a war, it's a mental war, and it's a physical war.
Right on, caller. And I'm gonna have to cut you off right there because I got to go into a word from the word. I promised the people that, and I'm gonna tie everything together with that. But I really appreciate you calling in. I appreciate you watching too. So please do stay tuned for the next episode and call in again.
Yes.
All right, y'all. Thank y'all for calling, man. It's always good to hear from the listeners. We got just a few more minutes left. Appreciate y'all hanging out. Now for Candy Lloyd, I can say this because she told me so. Now for Candy Lowe's favorite part of the program, a word from the word. We going to Galatians 6 and 7, if you have your Bibles. And Galatians chapter 6, verse 7. And it reads, "Be not deceived. God is not mocked. For whatever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. Be not deceived, God is not mocked, for whatever a man soweth, that shall he also reap." Let me tell you what I get from that. In order to get something, you got to do something. You got to sow something. And you also, the flip side, right? So whatever you sow, that's what you get, right? So on the flip side is, if you don't sow, then you don't get, right? So the reason why we get no respect, the reason why we get no power, the reason why we get few and small victories when we do win is because we ain't sowing. We ain't sowing right. You understand? We have to begin to sow, sisters, brothers, comrades. We say, well, brother, not a preacher, what should we sow? We have to start sowing confidence in our African selves. We have to know who we are. We have to sow knowledge of self. That's number one. Got to know we African. Be happy to say we African. Be proud of that. And I see more of y'all, more and more each day on Facebook. Since I've been saying this since 1998 in Tampa. And I see some of y'all coming around finally saying you African. We got to say that. We got to sow nationhood and nationalism. We have to show confidence and belief in each other. We have to sow organization, comrades. We have to sow organization. We can't win if we ain't organized. You know, these people organized. They got walkie-talkies, network computers. That's how they can respond like that. When before you know it, they own you like what they call it, like white on rice. You understand? Because they organized, not because they smarter. I look at their records. Them of them can't even spell. You understand? And it's not because they smarter or better or faster. It's just they are organized. We have to sow organization. We have to sow discipline, comrades. We have to sow discipline. And you say, well, if we sow these things, if we sow knowledge of self, confidence, what else? Organization and discipline. Well, what will we reap? You begin to reap respect, and not just some kind of feeling, some kind of sentiment. I'm talking about kind of respect that looks like fear. You understand me? Well, they know better than to come in your neighborhood with that nasty mess that they pull on us day in and day out. We begin to develop, reap respect, where they know not to come to your house kicking in your door without much fear and trepidation. You understand? We'll begin to reap power. Understand? Power and control. Those two things come together. Power and control over our own lives. And ultimately, when we win this thing, after all of this sowing and reaping, we will reap the ability to govern ourselves, have our own nappy-headed, thick-lipped, big booty, loud music boom box freedom, because that's what we damn sure supposed to have. I appreciate y'all listening to the Life Malcolm Show, brothers and sisters, comrades, and others. I hope that y'all tune in next week, man. We're gonna have a little fun next week. We're gonna get on some parables and things my grandmother used to say and stuff like that. So I appreciate you tuning in. I really appreciate the calls, and we will see you next Tuesday, man. Last show of the month, next Tuesday, y'all. All right, to be continued.